Hi, I'm Rochelle from ForTheLoveOfTheDead.com. I watched The Talking Dead after I made my last video. My last video was the one where I said I was really let down, that I was wanting to be emotionally wrung out by the end of the episode, and I wasn't. So after I made that video, I watched The Talking Dead, and according to Scott M. Gimple, I believe it was him, the reason they didn't show who died was because that was the end of that chapter, meaning the season 6 story. And at the beginning of season 7 will, of course, show who it was, and it'll be the beginning of that story. And it'll be the story of how Rick and the rest of his survivors deal in the fallout of Negan killing one of their people, pretty much because of Rick. And Maggie, if you want to go there, but I'm kind of thinking she won't want to go there. But they just took on the Saviors, sight unseen, without a whole lot of provocation. The only provocation they really had was from Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham when they were threatened. And then they took out all those Saviors in the road with one shot, which was a pretty awesome scene. But other than that, they haven't been threatened by them yet, because of course they would be if they hadn't done anything, but they decided to meet the threat head on and deal with it. And so they went in and just started slaughtering people, which was really the first time they'd been like that. And they thought they knew what they were getting into, and they had absolutely no idea. Even now, I don't know, because I don't know how big the band of Saviors are. But based on that finale, they're massive. They are a lot of people, and they are loyal to Negan. That much we've seen from the few who we have talked to. Or we, like I got to, no, who they got to talk to. So, whoever died, it's pretty much because of Rick. And when I say Maggie too, because she's the one who said on the hilltop, yeah, we'll do it. Give us your stuff and we'll go take care of the problem. And that was the beginning of the end. So, if we've got a game I will play, this is my one entry into it, into hashtag who is it, and I know who it is. I'm very confident I know who it is. I know there are all kinds of posts on the internet right now. Well, they were in a line, let's see, from the way you will see it. Carl was over here, and Glenn was over here. They were at the ends, and then I don't know the exact positioning of everybody, but if this is Carl and this is Glenn, and Daryl and Michonne were over here, and Maggie, let's see, Eugene was probably over here too. And then in the middle were, I think, Maggie and Rick. I think they were in the middle-ish. Anyways, all kinds of people saying, okay, here's what the lineup was, and here's how it looked. And they heard people calling out names as whoever it was getting bludgeoned to death. I've listened and re-listened. That was a neighbor. But totally lost my thought. Well, I've listened and re-listened with my eyes closed so I could listen even better, and I don't hear any names being called out. Nothing's clear to me. My daughter, who was listening with me, said she heard Abraham calling out. I actually initially thought it might be Abraham for two reasons. One, when Negan was going, not eeny, meeny, miny, mo yet, but just walking past them saying, I'm going to choose one of you, Abraham stood up, well, kneeled up straight, stood up to him, metaphorically speaking. And Negan was impressed by that. And then when Negan was beating whoever it was, that person went down after the first hit and then came back up. And that to me seemed like something Abraham would do. Well, actually, I guess 3 reasons. And Negan said something like, look at him, he's taking it like a man. And I can definitely see Abraham doing that. But it's not Abraham. I agree with well, I don't know if I agree with my daughter. I couldn't hear him calling out. But if my daughter says Abraham called out, sounds good to me. Are you ready? All right, warning. Spoiler alert, which is part of my reasoning, but really not much. But a spoiler alert nonetheless, so if you haven't read the comics, you might want to stop listening. Okay, spoiler alert's over. Hashtag who is it? It's Glenn. It's Glenn. I know it. And the reason I know it is this whole season has been leading up to Glenn's death. He cheated it over and over. Oh, I just thought of something. Scott M. Gimple made a comment on The Talking Dead about these kind of cliffhanger endings, and he mentioned Lost looking down into the oh my gosh, what the heck was it called? I want to say portal, but that's wrong. The hatch, when the hatch was lifted and they looked down and then it ended, boom, and we had to wait to find out what was in the hatch or who was in the hatch because we knew someone was in there. And I think what they've done here is very much along the lines of what Lost did with Charlie. Charlie kept cheating death over and over, but finally it caught up with him, you know, not Penny's boat. In this case, Glenn cheated death multiple times, at least 2 that I can think of. I would have to go back and watch the whole season to see if there were more, but there may have been, I don't know. So the spoiler part of what I want to say has to do with the comics, and that is, although I haven't read this part of the comics yet, I do know that Glenn died after Maggie got pregnant but before the baby was born. But they are really good at not following the comics, so that really isn't my reason. My reason is because this whole season and Glenn and death. And it just makes sense that it's Glenn. Now, if you want to go through the last scene where Negan's walking back and forth in front of everybody, I'll give you another reason why I think this, and that has to do with when Negan was standing in front of whoever it was, you could see trees in the background. Pretend there were trees back here and on the wall. There were lots and lots of trees, and if you watch carefully, when you're over on the side where Glenn and Daryl were and Michonne, you can see trees behind Negan. When you're over by where Carl is, you don't see anything. I think you see the RV, I think. So that leads credence to my belief here, but it's Glenn. And I don't feel worn out about it because I didn't see it happen. I still am waiting for that emotional release, even though I now know who it was. I'll have it when season 7 begins. I'll probably be crying my little eyes out, curl up in a little ball. I hope they don't show it. I hope they just cut straight to everybody's back in Alexandria or maybe Hilltop, and then they just deal with the aftermath, because they are dealing. Rick got put in his place. That's what my husband said. It's about time he got put in his place. I don't happen to agree with that it's about time, but I do agree that he did. He got put in his place. I don't know that I'll be making any more videos on this topic because there's nothing more for me to add to it until season 7 starts, but I will probably make more videos on Fear the Walking Dead, which starts this weekend, this upcoming weekend, which would be, I think, April 8th, 2016. I think that's what it is, something like that. No, gosh, a little later than that. Today's the 5th. So whatever it is, 10th, 11th, something like that, 2016. So please comment in the comments below what you think. Do you agree with me? You think it's Glenn? You think it's Abraham? You think it's someone else? Oh, by the way, it definitely is not Carl or Rick, as I explained in the last video, because Negan said, if anybody makes a sound, cut out his other eye, meaning Carl's, and feed it to his dad, meaning Rick. And so those two are definitely safe. Plus, if you pay attention, when Negan is saying, if anybody makes a noise, cut out his other eye, he motions that way with his arm, indicating Carl's over there. So we know it's not Carl, and we know he's away from Carl. Granted, Carl's at the very end, so everybody would be away from Carl, but I think that's another indication that we're on the other end of that line, down here where Glenn is. Okay, so enough of that. Please comment, subscribe, so that you know when new videos come out, and I look forward to making the next one, probably on Fear the Walking Dead, because I'm really liking that show too. See you next time.